I just pressed the let's go live button. And so we've got to wait for the stream to fire up all across the fruited plain of the internet before we go ahead and get started and get nice and centered here and situated. Because it's a big day. We had some serious speed bumps over there in Delaware, and we're going to get into it. And so let's make sure that the stream is working. It looks like we're alive and well, which is tremendous. That means we can go ahead and get started. So let's do it, shall we? Hello, my friends, and welcome back to yet another episode of Watching the Watchers Live, the show that spotlights misconduct involving police, prosecutors, and politicians. My name is Robert Govea. I'm a criminal defense attorney, and today we are talking about Hunter Biden's scam plea deal being rejected by the judge in Delaware. And woo, man, this doesn't happen often. Judges will generally accept a plea deal, especially in a high stakes case like this. All of the T's have been crossed and I's have been dotted in most circumstances. And so the fact that this went off the rails has been just a ton of fun for a criminal defense attorney. It's just, or a prosecutor or even anybody else who's interested in this space. I mean, criminal law, this is like a 40 car pile up on the highway. And we're going to go through it in detail. So we'll start today by talking about what happened late last night. Today was the big day. Everything was supposed to be situated, but there were some late minute filings that took place last night. And this was breaking, and we had a lot of questions about this. What happened? Apparently, the opposing or the defense counsel for for Hunter Biden, I was going to say Donald Trump. I'm so used to saying that. Hang on one second. The defense attorney for Hunter Biden is now sent in a letter made a phone call into the court, and it was a bad phone call. Something happened. They removed an entry off the court docket, and the judge wanted to know what happened. So we'll go through her order, and then we'll go through what the response was from Hunter's team and from the House Ways and Means Committee, because there was some shenanigans afoot, and we'll break down exactly what happened there. It was very, very bizarre. But when they showed up in court this morning to explain themselves, that's when everything went awry. Hunter Biden showed up. You can see he was arriving there in a motorcade. We're going to hear what Judge Maryellen Noreika, what she had to say about this, because we'll go through the proceedings bit by bit, and we'll just assemble what happened in court. There was a big, long recess. The attorneys were there. They thought they had an agreement. The judge asked some questions. They said, I guess we don't have an agreement. And then they broke out into recess. They reconvened a couple times. And we'll go through exactly what happened, because they left with no plea deal, and they're rescheduled for court at a later date. So we've got Fox News, MSNBC, and other reaction from CNN asking, how could this possibly happen? We'll go through all of that. Now, then we'll turn our attention to the actual release conditions, because the documents have been released, and it is amazing. Hunter Biden has release conditions, meaning he can do certain things and he can't do other things, and he has to, for example, get a job. And we're wondering whether or not being a money laundering fake artist qualifies for that condition. So we'll go through that in detail. Fun article from the Babylon Bee about maybe something being left behind in the courtroom. Huh? That's an interesting image. Was something left behind in the courtroom? I don't know. Babylon Bee is reporting on that one. And so we'll go through that. And we've got a lot of reaction from the White House. Karine Jean-Pierre came out, and she was fielding questions from the press on this one. Have you guys talked to Hunter Biden about this? Do you think he actually should be prosecuted? And so on. And we'll see what she has to say. Joe Biden, remember, said that he had never spoken to Hunter. And then Karine came out in almost an identical red dress. So this was today up here. And then a couple days ago, that was that color. It's like almost the exact color. Did she just add something to the top of it? Are those taped on there? I don't know. Anyways, she came out and she explained that, no, it wasn't that they never spoke about any of this stuff. It was that they were never in business on any of this stuff. And the press, like we did, said, what? How's that? Wait, you changed your entire perspective on this. What are you talking about? And so they asked her about this point blank. They said, okay, Karine, so now we got to get clear on this. You said you never spoke. Now you say that they were never in business. What is it? we'll see what her response was on all of that. And then we will go into some reaction from the GOP. They're saying that they're going to start this impeachment inquiry. And we heard from Kevin McCarthy earlier in this week and other Republican leaders saying they're excited about this. We've got Marjorie Taylor Greene with impeachment resolution. She's talking about it on the floor of Congress. And the Democrats are kind of laughing at it. They're like, all right, what are you going to do? Impeach him? And so we'll see what Adam Schiff had to say. And some Republicans are also on Team Democrat. They're like, this isn't really anything. The Republicans aren't going to move this forward. This guy, Ken Buck from Colorado, calls it just a shiny object, that Kevin McCarthy's not really serious about any of it. Well, we'll see. We've got Jim Jordan. He's going to explain why the powers are necessary of the impeachment inquiry to get answers. And so, as you can see, my friends, we've got a lot to get to. And we've got documents coming up, Hunter's release conditions. We've got the Brady request. We've got the letters from the Ways and Means Committee's lawyer. And we've got Hunter's lawyer's response. And this is Latham and Watkins. So we'll go through all of that and more. And of course, we invite you to check out our new website, robertgovea.com, where you can sign up for this mind map and get access to all those documents. All the PDFs are linked right here in the mind map. And you can sign up at robertgovea.com to get access to it all the videos, all the clippings, all the archives from prior shows from this month. They're all there. And also on the website, you get the show reports. So if you don't want to watch a full video, we have video summaries, reports that will synthesize what's in the video for your reading pleasure if you so choose. So check it out, robertgovea.com. Over there, you're going to see a bunch of invitations to join us at watchingthewatchers.locals.com, which is where we have an amazing community on our locals community, and we see them chatting away. And we do have an amazing locals community. We have a little bit of an app chat glitch, I think, right now, so I'm going to have to refresh my screen. However, watchingthewatchers.locals.com is where we hang out. We do member-only morning streams. We have daily updates on the docket, the presidential schedule, what's going on in Trump world, and all of the other things. And so come out and join us, watchingthewatchers.locals.com, or you can join us as a member on YouTube. You get all the same stuff. The only thing is for the after party after the show, we ask that you join us on Telegram so that we can, talk off YouTube. So come and join us over there, and it's a lot of fun. We appreciate you supporting our work there. Now, before we get into all of these goodies, all of these delicious, no plea agreement, delicious treats, we got to eat our vegetables. And we all would like to lose some of those leftover pandemic pounds. And how sick are you of all the ads for weight loss pills and fad diets? We've all been there. We've all done that. And they just don't work. But you know what does? Eating 5 healthy servings of fruits and vegetables every single day. You do that, the weight would probably just fall right off. But look, vegetables, not a fan. And fruit, who's got time to prepare that every day? I don't. Let's talk about Field of Greens instead. Now, Field of Greens is a science-backed formula, very specific fruits and vegetables that you're not going to find in any other product. We know proper nutrition reboots our metabolism so we burn calories faster and lose weight a healthier way. And Field of Greens is the only brand backed by a better health promise. Yes, you're going to look and feel healthier fast, but the greater proof is going to come at your next checkup when your doctor takes one look at you and says, "Whoa, baby! You've lost weight. Whatever you're doing, keep it up. You look fabulous. I don't even know why you're here." So go on over to fieldofgreens.com. Don't forget to enter code Robert when you check out so that you can load up on all of the health goodies that they've got for you. And let's remember, the vegetables want to be eaten. You're going to make their entire reason for existence come true. Every carrot, every broccoli, they love it. They're like, "Hey, that's why we're here. Eat me. That's why we're here. Hello." So thanks for contributing to universal harmony by getting your Field of Greens. All right, now let's get into it. Hunter Biden's lawyers busted in a last-minute scam. Man, he was supposed to be there to enter in this plea deal, but suddenly we find out from the House Ways and Means Committee that something nefarious was afoot on the court docket. They sent in a big filing and they said, "Judge, before you even consider taking this plea deal, you should read all of this because this plea deal is a sweetheart deal. Hunter Biden is going to be excused from huge swaths of criminality. Please read this thing." But something weird happened. Theodore Kitilla the lawyer for the House Ways and Means Committee, which has been investigating the IRS whistleblower evidence, he was checking the court docket. Theodore Catilla, he's working for the House Ways and Means Committee. And he says, you know, that big document that we filed, that we wanted the judge to read prior to the plea deal, it fell off the docket. It just was removed. It's like we never sent it in. You know, what? And so he sent this letter, which of course we are going to read here shortly. But we're also going to read a letter from Hunter's lawyer, this guy, Christopher Clark. And so the allegation is that this woman, Jessica Bengels, called into the court claiming that she was from Theodore Catilla's office, saying that our office filed the filing and we would like it removed. Almost like it was an accidental filing. Hey, can you just clarify? We meant to file it under seal. Can you pull that off for us? We're from the same firm. But they're not from the same firm. In fact, they're from adversarial firms, from opposing parties. So that's a pretty big miscommunication if that happens. And so when we're approaching the court date and Catilla checks the docket, he goes, something is awry over here. And so he responded with a letter, which we're going to read. But this is what the judge said from the court docket. She said, all right, we need answers. My court clerk says the opposing party called pretending they were another party, and that's not supposed to happen in my courtroom. So here is what the actual order said from the court. July 25th, the day before the plea deal was supposed to be entered. Now, there's a little bit of back and forth here. It says, the court's in receipt of the party's motion for a leave. It says, as an initial matter, Hunter has not indicated what information should be sealed or what we shouldn't be looking at here. In fact, Hunter has not filed a formal request with the court to seal anything. So, okay, but he's complaining about sealing whatever. All right, so this big thing was filed. And so the judge says, all right, just to be safe, I'm going to temporarily place the document under seal until the close of business on the 26th to afford Huntie the opportunity to make the showing. And then, they showed up in court. Should Hunter fail to make that showing, the document will be unsealed in its entirety. We're going to see all of the financial transactions. Apparently, it's a big, massive document, but it's sealed now. We haven't seen it yet. The judge says, in addition, something problematic happened here. The court has reviewed the allegations in Mr. Catilla's letter, the letter that we're about to read, regarding a call that was made to the clerk's office regarding the amicus materials, a big filing that the House Ways and Means Committee was sending in. The judge says Mr. Catilla asserts that an individual associated with the firm representing Hunter called the clerk's office pretending to be an associate of Mr. Catilla, Hunter's lawyers pretending to work with the House Ways and Means Committee. Now, remember, this is a criminal prosecution, so the actual parties to the case are the DOJ and Hunter, not the House Ways and Means Committee. They're filing an amicus saying, hey, we've got a bunch of information about this from the Treasury. You might want to be aware of, Judge. And it's a co-equal branch of government, so maybe she does consider it. So now the judge is taking a look at this big filing and says, wow, maybe I will deviate from this plea deal that's about to take place the following day. Except Hunter's lawyers request the materials be removed from the docket. And the clerk says, oh, well, you filed it. It's your filing. Okay, yeah, sure. I'm happy to pull it off. And I've absolutely done that. Hey, I filed this with the wrong, in the wrong court, with the wrong heading on it. I filed the draft. Can you just pull that back? I'm sending the corrected one right over. No problem. Happens all the time. The response from defendant's counsel, Hunter's counsel, on this issue, he says, well, as far as we're aware, the managing attorney from Latham called the clerk. And they say the court discussed this matter, and we're going to read through this, says it appears the caller misrepresented her identity in an attempt to improperly convince the clerk's office to remove the amicus materials. Whoa. So it is therefore ordered that before the end of the day, Hunter Biden and his lawyers shall show cause as to why sanctions should not be considered for misrepresentation to the court. That is a spicy meatball there, my friends. Anytime you're a lawyer and you get an order to show cause, you're not happy about that. It's like going to the principal's office, all right? It's when your mother uses your full name, the middle name too. You're in big trouble, buddy. So you better be prepared. Now, misrepresentations to the court clerk and then blaming the court clerk on top of it, also a big no-no. So let's take a look at now what the filings include, because they were juicy. This is the letter that was alerting the court to the problem. It came from Theodore Catilla, the gentleman that we just saw representing the House Ways and Means Committee. He says, hey, Judge, filed this the day before Hunter's plea deal. He says, Dear Judge, all right, listen, our firm represents the Ways and Means Committee. And this morning, our firm filed Chairman Smith's motion for leave to file our brief. We got an email, which we'll take a look at, from Hunter Biden's lawyers advising us that the materials we filed, which he says, which are publicly available, they're all over the place. Hunter's lawyer said, hey, you violated the court's rules because it contained grand jury and confidential tax information. But he says, okay, but defendant's counsel, Hunter's lawyers, did not provide any details regarding which material should have been filed under seal. They just didn't like the full filing. So we responded that this filing included only documents which were already publicly available. Here's the website link. The exhibits that were filed have been public since June. And following an approved vote of the House Ways and Means Committee, it's all available. And moreover, the documents that were made public were redacted by both counsel for the minority and majority members. So Democrats and Republicans all looked at the document filing prior to making it publicly available. And counsel for Hunter Biden advised that he would be moving to seal the record. So Congress submits this giant book report. They don't like it because it exposes his criminality. And so they say, well, we're going to file a motion to seal. He says, okay, fine, seal it. So following this exchange at approximately 1:30, we received word that our filing was removed from the docket the day before the plea deal. So we promptly contacted the clerk's office. This is a lawyer representing Congress. We promptly contacted the clerk's office, and we were advised that someone contacted the court representing that they worked with my office and that they were asking the court to remove this from the docket. We immediately advised this was inaccurate. The clerk's office responded that, I already removed it. You better refile it, which they've done. House lawyer says, I advised Hunter's lawyer that we were deeply concerned by this conduct. And he admitted that they did contact the court, but he said that we had done nothing improper. And in further response, he also stated back to me, Judge, when I was trying to be nice to him and say what happened here, he said, I stand by all my statements, punk. I hope you have an affidavit from the clerk in support of yours. He says, so I do. Yeah, here's an email attached to this letter, Your Honor. If Hunter's lawyer or other lawyers want to seal this publicly, he should do it by way of motion. Don't call the clerk behind our backs. We remain available for any questions. And so let's go through the emails. We can go all the way down to the bottom and see what's happening here, including Exhibit B. So it looks like we have an email from Theodore Catilla copying some lawyers. House lawyer says, all right, everybody, as discussed, here are the filings in the above referenced matter, Hunter Biden case. We filed our motion. And then Richie Jones from Hunter's legal team, presumably, says, hey, Ted, portions of your below attached filing by the House Ways and Means Committee, it contains grand jury and confidential taxpayer information that must be sealed immediately. You see how lawyers talk to each other? Rude. Please contact the court immediately and pull the filing pending a sealed filing. We will notify you in short order which portions of the filing should remain under seal. Richie. So this lawyer, he's sitting there. He just finished his lunch. He's like, "The hell are you talking about? What? You're must be sealed immediately. You're ordering me to pull a filing? What?" So then Ted responds, and he says, actually, William Green responds back to Richie, and I don't know, these are all the different parties involved, many different law firms, obviously. Says, sorry about that, Richie. We're not removing anything. All the information in the filing is publicly available, and it's hosted on the government's website. Here's the link. You can go look at it for yourself. It's all public. And then another lawyer for Hunter, Christopher Clark, responds. And he says, oh, so are you declining to file it under seal? Please answer directly. Man, these lawyers are punks. Christopher Clark. Then this goes back. And William Green, for the House lawyer team, says, sorry, Hunter, we will not be filing it under seal. All right. All the taxpayer information was already made public through a committee vote through Congress, and it's been made available to the public since June 2023. So go look it up at the website. I already sent you the link. So then Hunter's lawyer responds and says, okay, well, we will be moving to seal the filing and we reserve all the rights. And he says, okay. Says, we understand, Chris. File away. Have fun. File very hard if you need to. So then what happens is they make some phone calls. Look at this, 12:21. We send the email. Yeah, we understand, Chris. Quit your bloviating, file your motion, stop threatening us. So then this goes back over, and now Theodore, House lawyer, sends an email to Christopher Clark, the guy who just said, hey, we're going to file under seal, or demand that you file under seal. He says, hey, counsel, Hunter, hey, Hunter's team. Someone from your side unilaterally contacted the court and had our filing taken down, which is just like blood boil level 10. What? It was represented to the court that there were social security numbers in the filing. The clerk was also under the impression that this was my firm's paralegal that did this. So we've got some pretty key details here. Social security numbers, paralegal. This is not accurate, and the clerk's office has been made aware of this. We ask that you immediately provide your basis for what you claim should not have been publicly filed, as we believe that this was improper. If you want to move for a protective order, you must move for one. Very truly yours, Theodore Catilla. See, this is a nice guy. Shout out to Ted. So he says the following. In response, Hunter's lawyer blasts him back. He says, hey, Ted, your email is inaccurate. All right. As far as I'm aware, the managing attorney, another lawyer from Latham, our office, and remember Latham and Watkins. This is the same law firm that represented Michael Sussman and Mark Elias and those types of guys. So in other words, they rigged 2016, attempted to, with Michael Sussman in the Steele dossier. And then they also have represented Mark Elias, the same guy who basically rigged 2020. Now they're representing Hunter Biden, who's the beneficiary of the rigged election. Isn't that incredible? So the managing attorney from Latham, this is a lawyer, called the clerk's office to note that personal tax information of Huntie had been filed in a non-redacted manner and to inquire regarding having the information sealed. As we told you we would, and as you said you understood. As we told you we would, and as you said you understood. As far as I am aware, the clerk took the filing down on their own accord. Your attempts to publicly file my client's personal financial information with no protection are improper and illegal and in violation of the applicable rules. Please follow the rules in making your non-party and non-approved filings. We will seek all appropriate sanctions in response to your actions. Look at these guys. Christopher Clark. Now, his firm made the phone call. Okay? His firm called and got another attorney's filings removed. And this guy still is talking with all of this bravado. Hey, I told you we're going to call. The court clerk took it down on her own. Don't blame us. Blame the clerk. This guy's blaming the court clerk. Not a good look. And because we screwed up, we're going to ask you for sanctions. Nice. So this is the response. He says, hey, Chris, you should probably take a step back from your statements, lunatic. This is all going to be public at some point. The clerk's office advised that it was represented to her that the request was being made by my firm. We will be advising the judge of this improper conduct. Very truly yours, Ted. And he responds, hey, Ted, I stand by all my statements. I hope you have an affidavit from the clerk in support of yours. He says, yeah, I do, actually. Here it is, Exhibit B. Let me show it to you. From Samantha Grimes, the generalist team lead at the court, sent at 2:19 directly to Theodore Catilla. He says, hi, Ted. Following up on our recent telephone conversation, the woman who called was a Jessica Bengels. Who is that? Oh, that's right. The managing attorney and the litigation services director. This is her profile on Latham and Watkins. She is a licensed attorney. She is barred in New York. Went to Fordham Law School. She renders advice on a wide range of procedural issues. And she oversees the filing process to ensure compliance with all the court requirements. Okay, so this is not an intern. Shout out to all the interns out there. But this is a managing attorney. This is not even an attorney, by the way. Okay, so attorneys will often, you have like line attorneys or associate attorneys, and then there's a managing attorney who manages the attorneys. This is a senior person. And she ensures compliance with all the court requirements. It's very interesting. Keep your eye out on this woman. She might be ambassador in the Biden administration to some country any minute now. But it was an interesting attempt. And so when we go back to the filing, she called and her phone number was the following. They've got it. She said she worked with Theodore Catilla. This is the clerk. She worked with Theodore Catilla, the House's lawyer. And it was important that the document was removed immediately or they could file a motion to seal. All right. And by the way, court clerks are extremely detailed, especially at the federal level. They get phone calls like this all the time, by the way, and they get attorneys who are trying to nudge them. No, I filed it on Friday. No, you didn't. I got it in my inbox. It says 5:01. Our business hours close at 5. Don't pull a fast one on me, buddy boy. You got to be careful with the court clerks too. You want to be on their nice side so they get you scheduled quickly. So in other words, I believe Sam Grimes. I stand with Sam Grimes from the District of Delaware. And it corroborates the statement from Hunter's lawyer. He said, yeah, we're going to call. They did call. Or we could file. He said, we are going to call and file a motion to seal. So this is all accurate. Sam says, I do deeply apologize for all the confusion on our part. I have put the rest of the clerk's office on notice that if someone is trying to do anything with the criminal or MJ case, they need to contact me. Again, very sorry for all the confusion. So if anybody else calls and tries to touch the docket, they're not going to be able to touch the docket. Got to go through Sam Grimes in order to get it done. Because somebody, apparently named Jessica Bengels, called into the office and said either remove it or file a motion to seal. Very, very interesting. Right as they were about to appear on plea deal day. Now, Latham and Watkins, the same firm that is basically a Democratic defense super firm. I don't even know how many millions of dollars they get representing all of the corrupt Democratic officials. They also represented people like Mark Elias, Michael Sussman. We know those guys. Talked a lot about him here. So when this little scam failed and the judge busted them, thankfully because Theodore happened to check the court docket and the judge said, hey, you better get something to us by 9 p.m. or else you're in big trouble. They did. It's like those scenes out of the TV shows with all the lawyers. There's documents flying all over the place. People are throwing chairs out the windows. Things are on fire. That was basically the situation at Latham and Watkins yesterday when the judge said, you know your biggest client, Hunter Biden, who is the son of the president? Judge is kind of pissed at us because apparently somebody called and lied to the clerk. What? The whole firm went bananas, I'm sure. So they respond. And remember, the judge said, you better get your answers on what's happening here. Says, okay, this is Hunter's team. Your Honor. Whew, all right. We write this letter and provide the accompanying affidavit in response to your order directing us to explain why sanctions should not be considered. The matter under consideration, they say, here we go, is appearing to stem from an unfortunate and unintentional miscommunication. Oh, no. Between a staff member at our firm and employees of the court. Staff member? This is a managing attorney and is the clerk of the court. We have no idea how the misunderstanding occurred, but our understanding is there was no misrepresentation. We did nothing wrong. Our staff member, who serves as director of litigation, represented her affiliation with Latham and Watkins to the clerk with whom she spoke. Both her number and her affiliation show up on the caller ID called Latham, unless she calls from a cell phone. We hope this letter and the attached declaration dispels any suggestion that undersigned counsel or our staff would ever intentionally misrepresent or mislead the court on any case. As the court's aware, the lawyers for the House filed a bunch of stuff. And you have a rule that says personal identifiers can't be included in the stuff. And so we told them about the personal info. And we asked while this was happening, while I was screaming at them in my email, we asked our staff member to call and ask, Your Honor, is there anything, or clerk, is there any mechanism that we can do to prevent further disclosure? She's got 18 years of experience. She's not a practicing attorney. She's a managing attorney. She does filing, procedural rules, all the daily communications, and she manages all the other lawyers. As is routine and part of her normal responsibilities, she has in prior circumstances she's alerted and obviously communicated with court clerks. This is what she does. So he says, so the lawyer who ultimately signs off on everything says, because he's the person under which this case is being brought under his license. He says, consistent with my instructions, earlier today, our lit staff service member, who is Jessica, called and introduced herself to the clerk, provided her full name, says, hi, I'm Jessica Bengels, and I'm with Latham and Watkins. It's weird. Did the clerk miss all of that? And notified the clerk. She says, well, I believe that one or more exhibits in the recent filing may have personal information, which we believed in good faith should not be on the public docket. And they say, oh, okay. Wait, you're with the defense law firm and you're up. So from the clerk's perspective, the clerk has to go, okay, so you're from Latham and Watkins. You're the defendant. Somebody filed something that was bad to your defendant and you want me to remove it, right? That should immediately trigger a flag. Like, obviously, you don't do that unless you check with the person who filed it, check with the DOJ, you check with everybody involved before you just start removing stuff. That's what the judge does, not what the clerk does. So the clerk asks for more information. Well, says, well, what filing? And Jessica Bengels, Hunter's team, says, well, I don't immediately know the answer because I'm not involved in the matter, other than occasional docket research. So why is she calling then? Because she did not know the answer. Our lit services staff member indicated, she says, well, I don't know what, oh my gosh. So she calls to say, hey, there's a bad filing on the public docket. What filing? I don't know. Let me call you back. What a waste of a phone call. She probably billed for that. Because she did not know the answer to the clerk's question, It's like if you call the court clerk, you're like, hey, I have a question about a case. They say, oh yeah, what's the case number? I don't know what the case number is. I'll have to look it up and call you back. Amazing. So shortly thereafter, and before getting a chance to call the clerk back, our Lit Services staff member, Jessica, received a call from a different employee of the court. The second employee of the court told Jessica that the filing had been removed from the court's docket. Who was that different employee? We wonder. Who was that? We can only speculate how and when the misunderstanding occurred. We noted, however, that the court employee who corresponded with our team is not the first clerk with whom we spoke. Our Lit Services member did not get the name. Oh no! Our staff member did not get the name of the second court employee with whom she spoke. Oh man! Don't you hate that? Weird how that happened. Other than working on docket research, Jessica Bengels was not engaged in substantive defense of our client, but she was pretty involved because she made a phone call to get a key amicus filing that was about to implicate Hunter in the eyes of the judge in this filing. She got it removed. That's a pretty substantive effort. Some might say it's like jumping on a grenade. Maybe the most substantive defense that we'll see in this case. Unfortunately, they got busted. And at no point was it our Lit Services staff members' intent or the intent of the firm to mislead the court with respect to the intention to protect our client. It's not our intention through this submission or otherwise to undermine any investigation conducted by the court. However, to the extent that there was a lack of clarity as to the purposes of Jessica, when she alerted the court of our concerns, it was completely unintentional in nature and not in any way intended to persuade the court or anyone else to take action that would not otherwise be taken as part of a routine administrative manner. And they cite case law. And they're like, Judge, look, sometimes these things just happen. If we screw this up, we just screw it up. Well, we can acknowledge it, but there's no reason for us to be sanctioned. And they actually cite some case law on that. So Matthew Salerno, Hunter's lawyers team, says, so we stand, Your Honor, prepared to address any inquiries to rectify this very simple misunderstanding. And should the court consider this letter and any accompanying materials to be insufficient, we look forward to fully briefing this and being heard. Signed by Matthew Salerno, representing Huntie. This is the declaration of Jessica. So this is the woman who apparently called. She says, yeah, I'm a staff member at Watkins. Here's my declaration. My name and information are all publicly available on the website. We saw this. To date, I've not been involved in anything other than assisting attorneys with docket research. On the day before the plea deal, one of the lawyers requested I call. I called the number from my Latham and Watkins phone number. The clerk I spoke with identified herself as Julia, said that a motion to seal would need to be filed. Exactly right. I asked, is there any policy for restricting personal information from the docket? She placed me on a hold. She asked me what firm I was calling. I said Latham and Watkins. The clerk heard it differently. I also mentioned, I believe, and there's multiple phone calls and another phone call to a clerk that we don't know the name of. She asked which docket numbers contain the confidential materials. I did not know the answer to those questions because I'm not involved in the case. I said, I'll call you back. I did not call Julia back. Another court employee called my Latham and Watkins phone number to let me know that she would be removing the material from the docket as non-compliant with the Federal Rules of Criminal Procedure 49.1. Who is that person? Who is that person? Another court employee called back, which she got through caller ID, said, I'm going to remove the material from the docket and cited actually the criminal rules. She did not ask what law firm I was with. At no point during the time did I mention my law firm. I believe there may have been some confusion when Julia passed the information on to the other court employee. The lines were crossed inside the court. So she says, I am completely confident. I never indicated I was calling from Katilas. The only mention of this name was about the filings that had been entered. I never misrepresented myself. This is all my true statement. Jessica Bengels. We have a missing phone call. We don't know who actually made a phone call from the court back to Latham and Watkins. Here are her notes. They actually scanned her notes in. And her incoming and outgoing calls. Whoa. So we have a random phone call from a court clerk who spoke with Julia, who then decided that there were federal rules that justified the removal of the filing, even though the first clerk asked them to file a motion to seal. That never happened. It just disappeared. It almost sounds like there's an inside person working on behalf of Hunter. Very, very convenient that it just disappears the day before they show up in court to execute their plea deal. But thankfully, Theodore Katila busted them, and the judge saw the amicus. And that may be why the judge rejected Hunter's plea deal. But we're going to find out more about what happened exactly at that hearing, because that's exactly what happened. Hunter Biden's plea deal rejected. This is major news. Plea deals don't generally get rejected. We have an adversarial system. If the defense and the prosecution agree to a deal, we kind of presume that that's good, because the prosecutors are supposed to be working very hard to get the max, and the defense is supposed to be working very hard to get the minimum. And so if they come to an arrangement, we typically think, well, that's justice, baby. That is one side versus the others. Evidence has been presented. It's the adversarial system at work. We can come to a just outcome. But that is, of course, presuming that the prosecutors actually want a prosecution. If they don't want a prosecution, if they're actually colluding with the defense to get a sweetheart plea deal, and then it goes in front of the judge may not want to enter that puppy. In very rare circumstances, like today. In most situations, they just rubber stamp this stuff. There's an agreement, cram it through. But not this judge. We're going to learn more about Judge Maryellen Noreika out of Delaware, get some reaction from the media, and we're going to break down exactly what happened in court today, because nobody was expecting this. It was supposed to just go through. This is a bad day for Hunter and the Biden crime family. They've wanted this to go away. And if the whistleblowers had not meddled around, this all could have been put to bed. This is Hunter Biden showing up in a motorcade to the court proceeding. And when we hear from the White House, they always tell us, he's just a simple private citizen. He's just this guy who just happens to stop by the White House every now and then. Leave Hunter Biden alone. But of course, he kind of lives at the White House. Some people were speculating so that he could avoid service with his baby mama case, and to avoid any questions from the various House committees, and probably because he has a ton of leverage over daddy when he is there at the White House. And so they pull up to the court. You can see the entire street is blocked off. He's got Secret Service protection, as most of those in the first family do. And so he'll get out and walk his way in, making it briskly inside the courtroom so that people aren't capturing too many photographs. And there he is, walking on in to Delaware. And this should have been all buttoned up. They should have had everything situated. Remember that this case is not really even an active criminal prosecution. I mean, we're basically done, or we're supposed to be done in this matter. Because when you check out the court docket, which you can get the link to in our mind map, which you can access at robertgovea.com, you'll see that this was supposed to be buttoned up. They sent a letter in back in June. And this letter was just to notify the court that we've got a resolution. Most people, when they're charged with crimes, there are investigations that then lead to either the filing of a criminal complaint that oftentimes is under seal. Then there's an arrest warrant that's issued. They arrest the subject. Then they unseal the criminal complaint. Same thing with an indictment. We have a grand jury proceeding is convened. They do their due diligence. The government presents them a bunch of evidence and they decide, hey, there's evidence of a crime here. They indict him. The indictment is sealed. They arrest the person, then they unseal the indictment. And we've seen all of that here. I mean, we've seen many people get arrested here. And we've gone through Donald Trump, for example, the various filings in his case. But that's not what happened here at all. In fact, right now, we've got an information that was filed, a misdemeanor information. It's saying we haven't really filed any actual charges, kind of filed charges yet, but we're going to wrap all of this up on the same day. We're going to arraign him and we're going to plea him out the same day. So we've spent a lot of time here talking about Donald Trump, his arraignments, huge deals. Just for one proceeding, 5 minutes. You know what the charges are? Yeah. Do you have a lawyer? Yeah. All right. Now don't leave the country. Don't flee the country for most defendants. I don't think Trump got that request, but we'll see you back here. It's a very brief proceeding, but they were going to do that and the plea deal in one. Normally what you get are pretrial conferences, discovery. We have settlement conferences. We've got, interviews. We've got motions to suppress, motions to preclude, tons of litigation. Not in this case. All supposed to be done today. The big problem with this, though, is that this was not done today, which means all of that other stuff that you normally get is now going to go into effect. And so let's see who this judge is before we actually go through the proceedings, because this was a shocker. Maryellen Noreika. She earned her Bachelor of Science from Columbia, JD from Pittsburgh School of Law, began her career at a law firm, graduated in 1993, was a lawyer in more than 500 cases, patent law, biotech, consumer products, worked in private practice until she became a judge. Trump nominated Noreika to serve as the district judge of Delaware. The seat was vacated by Gregory Sleet, senior status. Nomination came out of vote. She had been considered as a potential nominee. She has been considered as a nominee for federal judgeship in the federal circuit by Joe Biden. Now, a couple notable cases. She presided over the case involving John Paul Mac Isaac. That was the laptop repair owner who got the Hunter Biden laptop. Noreika ruled against Mac Isaac. He sued CNN Politico for defamation, didn't find in his favor. She was also assigned to the criminal case against Hunter. And so let's take a look at the proceedings and what happened today in court, because there was a ton of activity and a lot of people were as shocked as we were when all of this unfolded. Now, we are getting this puppy queued up. Here we are. Starting bright and early this morning, we had an update. And the New York Times is walking us through this. In the courtroom, they say Hunter Biden said that we are here to intend to plead guilty to the tax charges. And that's what they do. They bring everybody in. All rise. Please be seated. The judges, okay, sit down. All right. We're here on the record of United States of America versus Hunter Biden. I see appearances, please. Prosecutor says, Your Honor, we're prosecutors from the DOJ, thank you. And then Hunter's lawyers say, we're here, and they say, Mr. Biden is sitting here and present. Okay, well, we're here today to review a plea agreement on the tax charges in the case of Hunter Biden. The judge says, okay, Hunter, I want to go through a series of questions in this matter to make sure that you are doing this of your own accord. Do you knowingly and voluntarily enter into this plea deal, which included questions about Biden's drug use? Have you used any drugs in the last 24 hours that would impact your ability to proceed in this matter? No, I haven't, Your Honor. Do you understand this? Yes, I do, Your Honor. Are you making this agreement voluntarily? Yeah. Did you have an opportunity to speak with your lawyer about this? Yes. Well, let me ask you about drugs. He says, I first started inpatient treatment for alcohol in 2003, and ultimately I was seeking treatment at 6 inpatient facilities and a number of outpatient programs over 20 years. But he said those programs were primarily and originally for alcohol, but eventually I got treatment for drugs, and he didn't specify which substances he was addicted to. So the last time I was in a drug treatment program, fall 2018, but I continued to use drugs afterwards. The judge said, well, are you on drugs right now? Biden said no. When he was there, Biden was wearing a dark suit, sat with his hands in front of him, seated in between his lawyers. When addressing the judge, he spoke briefly, says, yes, Your Honor. The judge said, well, I'm going to ask you these questions because I want to make sure if you're entering this plea deal that you are doing it voluntarily and knowingly. Hunter says, yep, I'm not under the influence, Your Honor. She's like, are you sure? Okay. Noreika said, okay, well, it appears that you're competent and you're capable to proceed. And this is a nice little check that the judges do. They want to make sure that you're not being pressured or forced or under the influence because they don't want you to be able to come back and say, I didn't intend to do that. And so sometimes these can be very long proceedings where the judge, are you sure nobody did that? And just making sure. And it's all being recorded. It's all on the record. So if you say, yes, I'm going to go to prison and accept this guilty plea, or yes, I'm going to accept this misdemeanor conviction in Hunter's case and not really have any consequences, then you can't reverse that. You can't, be sitting in your prison cell and say, I never meant to plead guilty. My lawyer told me something. No, the judge is going to say, did your lawyer promise you anything that is not in this agreement? Did you read it? So he's competent. Now there's a sidebar. They're going through these questions. The judge calls up a sidebar and the husher goes on in the courtroom. Psh, nobody can hear. Lawyers for the government, DOJ, and Hunter, they approach the bench. Hunter sitting alone at the defense table. After the sidebar, Christopher Clark, one of Biden's lawyers, spoke to Biden, came back and whispered to him, this is what we talked about, this is what's going on. The hearing continued. Now they start talking through this plea deal. And they tell us that, whoa, this thing is on the verge of collapsing here. The judge is going through these questions. She's saying, okay, term 5, paragraph 9, what is this one? She says, Mr. Prosecutor, I'm just confused about this term. Does this offer Mr. Biden blanket immunity from prosecution for his business dealings? Or is it only for his tax offenses? What's the scope of this immunity? Great question, Judge. We've been asking that for a long time now, ever since we learned he was going to be taking a plea deal. Now, our perspective was that the DOJ had this unwritten agreement with Hunter and that they wanted this thing to just get squeaked on through. They had this information. They were going to go in there. There was an unspoken agreement. The DOJ, we can't put this in writing, but we're going to enter this plea deal here. We're, of course, not going to prosecute you, and it's going to close this case. After the whistleblowers blew the lid off the whole thing, they can't do that anymore. And so now the judge is saying, all right, is it an open investigation or not? Can you still prosecute him for business dealings or not? Judge says, Mr. Prosecutor Leo, I need to ask you point blank on this. I'm not liking these answers. A lot of wishy-washy conversation here. Does this deal mean that Hunter Biden would be immune from prosecution from other possible crimes, including violations related to representing foreign governments, FARA violations? Is he immunized from all of the other stuff? Prosecutor says, Your Honor, no, he's not. He doesn't have immunity. Biden's lawyer says, well, in that case, then this agreement that we're here for today is null and void. Now, this is just a giant show, okay? At this point, we're playing patty cake with each other between both sides. The fact that you have very, very, I would imagine, competent DOJ lawyers and competent Biden lawyers, very expensive people, and they have this written plea agreement without a paragraph that clearly defines immunity, whatever the terms are, is like a joke, right? They're not idiots. There was an agreement, it just wasn't written in the document. And they were hoping that the judge could slide it through so that they could say that the case was closed, so that they would not have to have this ongoing investigation stuff. And they would avoid discovery, pretrial conferences, and actual prosecution. We are now going to get to see some actual prosecution, and we have the government on the record now saying that this plea deal, whatever this is not enough to give him immunity for all of the other charges. Now, I personally do not think that this, I could be wrong, the judge may have asked this question if this case had not gotten as much publicity. I don't know. If Congress wasn't breathing down this jurisdiction's neck, if we didn't have IRS whistleblowers, if this was just the alternate reality, pre-IRS whistleblowers, this question may not have even come up. Because now we're asking about the foreign governments. Now we're asking about the foreign crimes. So the whistleblowers may have saved this from happening directly. This question may not have ever happened, but for their testimony. So can we just say shout out to the whistleblowers? Now, Hunter's lawyers are on record saying our deal is only valid if we get full immunity. What kind of a psycho deal is that? And I personally think this may have been a mistake on their part. They might have been better served by just, okay, fine, we're going to plead guilty today. We know it's not in writing in there, but my daddy owns the DOJ, and he's not going to allow me to be prosecuted again. And if I am, he's going to pardon me anyway on his way out. And now all this does, because they've got this bravado, saying, fine, we're not going to enter a plea. Well, what are we're going to have discovery now? We're going to have a trial? You want to have a trial? We'd love to have a trial. That sounds great. We would love to have a trial on this and have discovery and have a full inquisition about these prosecutors and the type of prosecution they are bringing. Are they just phoning it in? Now we get to see all of that or not? Are they going to buckle? I still would imagine that Hunter Biden and his team are going to come back and try to find a deal. The last thing they want is more discovery on this. So they're flipped out now. In court, Chris Clark says, Your Honor, can we have a 10-minute recess? Let me go talk to the prosecutor, see if we can salvage this deal. Parties furiously negotiating in full view of 36 reporters packed into the courtroom. It's like madness. Documents flying all over the place. People are flipped. From the start, the judge seemed highly skeptical of the unusual deal. This offered Hunter broad immunity from prosecution in perpetuity. In perpetuity. Total immunity. She said to the prosecutors here, why has this been filed under a provision that gave me, the judge, no legal authority to reject this? So you've crafted the Department of Justice. No one's above the law, those people. They contort themselves into a plea deal that gives Hunter Biden broad immunity in perpetuity, and they say the judge can't even reject it. The judge says, the hell I can't. Watch me. She asked Leo Weiss, a prosecutor. She said, hey, you work for Merrick Garland, which is Hunter Biden's daddy. Is there any precedent for the kind of deal being proposed here today? He replied, no, Your Honor. Any precedent for giving this person a deal like this? No, Your Honor. Leo Weiss, U.S. attorney, honest and truthful for 3 words, full sentence. Amazing. No, Your Honor. No precedent for this kind of a deal. There really isn't. DOJ should have never offered it. Of course, they did it because this is a sweetheart deal they were trying to cram through. The judge knows it. That's why it was rejected. That's how bad the deal is. If you have a question about it, just say, do judges often reject plea deals? No. But they did this time. Hunter's lawyers repeatedly cast the deal as the final chapter of the 5-year inquiry. I know, that's why we're all upset about it. But Judge Maryellen Noreika quickly punctured that assertion. She asked Leo, she said, is the Biden investigation ongoing? He said, yes. Said that if Biden's team thought otherwise, then there's no deal. Then there's no deal. Yeah. What I think is this is a little bit of patty cake playing. Okay, I don't think these people are really at each other's throats at all. They were on the same side to create this unprecedented deal, to squeeze it through. They're working in cahoots with each other. IRS whistleblower blew it up. Now, these two kids got caught with their hand in the cookie jar. So now that they've been busted, they're playing this game. Oh, wait, what? Oh, wait, you're kidding. I thought it was blanket immunity. No, of course. And they go, so they're there in court because they know we're all watching now. This isn't like the DOJ is suddenly going to be a great prosecution. They're the ones who came up with the deal in the first place and offered it. They were going to try to shove it down our gullets had the whistleblowers not come forward and had this judge not ask that single question. So they're just going to fake like they hate each other. Okay. So now as we wait to see whether the deal is salvaged, it's important to remember that it was negotiated over weeks in which there were lengthy backs and forth about every inch of the deal. Of course, of course it was. The idea that this issue was not resolved seems extraordinary. Absolutely correct. There was a deal. There was an agreement. It just wasn't written in the document. And the judge was prompted to ask about it because of all of this madness. After the recess, Biden's lawyers and his government lawyers agree. They say the diversion agreement for the gun charge is separate from the tax charges, which, okay. And they say the issue of whether there is an ongoing investigation has dangled out since there is a plea deal that was announced. Christopher Clark, Hunter's lawyer, says, no, I thought the investigation was over. U.S. attorney said it was ongoing. So, in my opinion, Clark should have just said it is over, because for all intents and purposes, I would imagine it is over. The U.S. attorney, it's kind of like a game of poker. Are they actually going to charge him again? No. So maybe they should have just taken the deal. But as someone who came a bit late, he says, I just learned. And we're back. Judge Maryellen Noreika has delayed a decision about whether to accept the plea deal, demanding that two sides make changes to the deal, clarifying my role as the judge, and insert language that limits the broad immunity from prosecution. They tried to squeak it through so that when Hunter, if anybody ever brought charges against Hunter in the future, they would have plausible deniability. Okay, they could just take this plea deal and they say they wanted the ambiguity built in. That's why they did it. So that when Hunter, if he ever got charged again, let's say Trump wins the White House, prosecutes him in 2025, they could say, sorry, our plea deal, even though it's ambiguous, it covers all of these other incidents. And I'm sure you get a DC judge, a Delaware judge, or a California judge to support that. But now they don't have that at all because the judge wants clarity. Biden's lawyers estimated it's going to take us about 2 weeks to get an answer on that. So after finally a 3-hour hearing, Hunter Biden entered a plea of not guilty on the tax charges, which he will reverse if they decide to redo their agreement to the judge's satisfaction. Now, we're going to see what the White House had to say about it. But Judge Maryellen said at times angrily that she felt like she was being asked to, quote, rubber stamp an agreement that she had serious concerns about. So shout out to Judge Maryellen Noreika from Delaware. Obviously a troubling filing. Judge Maryellen Noreika not letting the Bidens pull a fast one on her today. And so Hunter Biden leaves court with an open criminal case, as he should. And so we've got reaction from this. Here is what the scene looked like from various news reports as it was unfolding. It was a wild afternoon.
Well, here we are, John. We now know that Judge Noreika is not going to accept the plea agreement. And as we were talking about just a moment ago, it's got to do. Judge Noreika does not believe that she has questions over the constitutionality of that diversion clause of the immunity that Hunter Biden would receive in this deal to not prosecute on the gun charge. She is not okay with at that. So the headline here is she has not accepted the plea deal. That would likely indicate we could be headed for a trial. We have not heard from the prosecution or the defense. Maybe they'll be coming out and talking to us. But a major headline here, what we thought that was starting some 3 hours ago was going to be a routine plea deal. Hunter Biden, in the early part of today's court hearing, said he was prepared to plead guilty to the 2 misdemeanor tax evasion charges. Not going to happen. Judge Maryellen Noreika not accepting the plea deal, questioning the constitutionality of the diversion clause that kept him from being prosecuted for the felony gun charge. And she also noted to great extent, almost as if, John, we were sitting in a law classroom, the fact that she did not like the way it was structured and she had never seen one like this, and was really questioning how it was that the prosecution and the defense came to this agreement, challenging specific parts, portions, paragraphs of the agreement and the language therein. And that will certainly lead some to comment, particularly perhaps the House Republicans that have been saying from the beginning that this was a sweetheart deal. The judge saying that she was not okay with the diversion clause portion of this plea deal. That is why she is not accepting the plea today. And of course, it comes after we have seen in the last 24 hours quite dramatic developments, namely the House Ways and Means Chairman Jason Smith issuing that amicus brief yesterday, asking the court and the judge to take a look at the testimony we've seen in recent days.
And we don't know if that was consequential, if the judge took a look at that big fat amicus and saw some of the behavior of Hunter's lawyers in trying to get that removed off the docket, and whether that mattered or not. But certainly she held the line on this thing. Here's what MSNBC said about it.
The son of the President of the United States has just pleaded not guilty. Not guilty is what he has pleaded to. The judge here says that she will not accept or reject the plea agreement. She wants more information. Basically, what she is asking for is to determine whether or not it's appropriate for her to consider something in the diversion program. This relates to the gun charge. So as part of that agreement, effectively what you have here is
And just briefly, we still haven't seen this agreement yet. It's not been filed. It's all been done privately. They didn't want to show us what the actual plea deal was until it was entered. They wanted us to just go on the court docket and then come to these conclusions on our own. To say, what? You mean he's getting like blanket immunity on this? And this is a very similar thing to what happened with Jeffrey Epstein, which we've talked about here. He got a non-prosecution agreement during his first plea deal that was insane. Hunter Biden is getting the same thing, and they didn't want us to see it.
Provision which asked the court to weigh whether or not possibly Hunter Biden could have violated his pretrial diversion agreement as it relates to the gun charge. What would happen, according to that agreement, is that the defense and the prosecution would have the opportunity to bring the facts to the court and for the court to determine whether or not there was a breach of that. If there is a breach, then the government could then move forward and prosecute Hunter Biden on the gun charge. What she says is, wait just a minute. I'm not somebody who normally has to consider those provisions. I normally don't see a pretrial diversion agreement. And now you're putting me in the position, possibly, of being the gatekeeper as to whether or not the Justice Department and the government files charges against Hunter Biden. That's not a situation from a separation of powers and a constitutionality that she feels immediately that she should be there, that she should make a determination on.
So this plea deal was even worse than we thought. It wasn't just like blanket immunity. There must be some other provision in there that if Hunter gets in trouble again. So this is complicated, and I'm just speculating because we haven't seen the actual document. But in a diversion plea deal, what it means is that they're going to charge you with a crime like a felony gun possession charge. And they're going to say, if you don't break the law for 12 months or 6 months, and if you don't use drugs, and if you take this class for gun management or anger management, whatever, right? You comply with the terms of this deal. Then at the end of the term, we will go ahead and dismiss the charge against you. That's a diversion deal. So Hunter, his felony, which is the most serious charge, will ultimately go away. Problem with that is that if you have a new crime, so let's say that Hunter is on this 12 months of probation, what happens if there is a new charge? He gets in trouble again. Another dime bag's found at the Coke House, White House. How does that work? What are the mechanics of this? So ordinarily, the way that it would go would be that the non-prosecution agreement, the diversion agreement, would then be null and void. It would be invalid because you committed a new crime. Let's say you're on diversion for a drug offense. Hey, we'll dismiss your very first cocaine charge. Don't use cocaine again. Oh, you get tested for cocaine? All right, well, obviously we're not going to dismiss the charge. You've already agreed. We're going to bring that charge back against you. We already have you sign an admission that you committed the crime. So we're going to use your admission against you in order to get you to use the diversion program. So we basically have you dead to rights if you get in trouble again. And that goes back to the prosecutor's office, and they would charge you, and they would be able to bring a new case against you for a new violation and all that stuff. It sounds like what they were trying to do here is take that away from the DOJ, which is insane, and give that over to the judge. So in other words, the judge would adjudicate any non-compliance, and all of this would be out of the DOJ's purview, which is why this deal is so corrupt. And this is why they wanted it closed immediately. So that then when Congress came sniffing around about other crimes, they could blame the judge for it. The judge would now have to adjudicate any additional charges or claims because the DOJ doesn't want it anymore. And the judge says, I'm not taking this hot potato. That's on you guys. But I just paused to point that out. I know it's technical and mechanical, but this deal is so corrupt. I would love to see the actual agreement. I bet it's going to be very difficult. I'm not sure we'll get our hands on it because how bad it is.
So that's what this hinges on. She also has some Rule 11 that's whether or not she can accept a guilty plea or not. And there's different versions of that where either she just kind of effectively rubber stamps an agreement or whether or not she can challenge a plea agreement and determine whether she wants to accept it or not.
There are so many rules against judges rejecting and accepting plea deals. Like they just generally accept them.
Long story short here.
Yeah.
This morning, we believe that this would be just a simple guilty plea. The judge would accept it. The president's son would say that he committed tax crimes, that possible gun charges would be part of a pretrial diversion agreement. There would be a likely probation as a result of that, and we'd be out of here in 2 hours. Now,
nope, not happening.
The judge wants both sides to provide briefs to the court
and come back at a later date. And so pretty amazing that they got busted. CNN is even calling this a mistake, saying, how could this even possibly happen?
Someone made a bad mistake here. Am I wrong looking at this, saying that these someone, whether it be Hunter Biden's defense or prosecutors here,
how could there be such a big miscommunication?
I cannot even begin to explain how the Justice Department walks into that courtroom without knowing exactly what the scope of immunity or coverage is for Hunter Biden. And equally, I cannot even begin to understand how Hunter Biden's lawyers walk him into that courthouse without knowing exactly what the constraints, what the limitations of that deal are.
They knew. It was just not written in the document. And they got busted. These were two people who had a scheme and a plan to get this thing eked through the courts. They got busted, and now they're faking this shock. Wait a minute. Are you serious? It doesn't have immunity for us? Wait a minute. It's still ongoing? Oh, no. Because they all got busted. But we know what they were trying to do. Thankfully, the judge called them out. Now Hunter Biden's going to have some additional court dates on the docket. We'll see if there's discovery and more, and it's going to be a lot of fun to follow this one. All right, so now let's take a look at the actual documents that came out because they are here. Hunter Biden pleads not guilty to criminal charges, and we know what that means. Release conditions. He's got some terms that he's got to follow out of Delaware. We're going to go through all of them. There's some good ones. He's got to get a job. We'll see what that means. But There is reaction from the White House as well. They're squirming all over the place now that there are questions being raised, and we'll see when Hunter's next official court date is. But let's just dive right into it. The release conditions coming out of Hunter Biden's guilty plea. You can see not too long, but there are a lot of details. 4 pages here, filed out of the District of Delaware. And the case is the United States of America, led by President Joe Biden, who is... Are we still live? Hang on a minute. Are we still live? All right, everything froze. Okay. The case is United States of America versus Robert Hunter Biden. So, of course, the president is running the country. It's his DOJ. This is Joe Biden's DOJ. He is the executive of the country. So he is prosecuting his own son. There's no special counsel involved in any of this. And here is what the release conditions entail. The judge tells us, Huntie must not violate any federal, state, or local laws. He must cooperate with a DNA sample collection so that we can get that on file. So whoever's collecting that, hopefully they're using a biohazard suit and gloves. Even put a face mask on. Good idea. The defendant must advise the court or the pretrial services office or supervising officer in writing before you move around, which I think his residence is like the White House. The defendant must appear in court as required. If convicted, must surrender to serve his sentence, and he must appear in court at a later date. Now, there was no appearance bond or anything of that variety, but here are more conditions. They say that, as usual, our courts want to release people in most situations. The default rule is to release people unless they're a danger to themselves, to the community, unless they're a flight risk, unless they're going to commit a new crime or something like that. So here the judge is saying our court obligations under the law, we want the least restrictive conditions available. He's not in the custody of anybody, so we can fast forward through that. But the defendant, Huntie, must do the following. He's on what looks to be pre-trial services. So he's going to have to give a phone call over to Central District of California, which is where he resides. I think, is he still living with that, officially with that bonghead lawyer? So he's got to call pretrial services, which is an entity that you check in with just to say, hey, you know, this is where I'm at. This is what I'm doing. I'm not in a non-extraditable country, and so on. Got to call the number. Now, here's one. Hunter must continue or actively seek employment. Is he employed? We know he's a fake artist money launderer, but does that count as active employment? Cocaine transactions, drug dealing is not generally, the judge won't say, oh, you're a drug dealer? That's okay, that counts. So I don't know. Hopefully he has to get a job. Now, no education program requirement. Doesn't worry about that. Doesn't have to surrender his passport. Section F, he's got to abide by the following. He has to communicate in writing all international travel plans. So if he's going back over there to hang out with the CCP or the Ukrainians on Burisma, you got to tell the court and provide supporting documentation about your travels, if requested, to both the court and the district in which you're residing. So both the Delaware and the district in California. There's no prohibitions on any contact with anybody. So nothing is labeled there. He doesn't have to get medical or psychiatric treatment, which is not a bad idea, but the judge is not requiring it. He doesn't have a curfew or have to be home at any particular time. Doesn't have to go to a halfway house, but he must not possess a firearm or a destructive device or any other weapon. He's got a gun crime. So no firearms. And he cannot use alcohol. Ooh, those State Department dinners may not be so fun for old Huntie. Now, I don't know what his current status is. He claims to be in recovery. They find dime bags of Coke at the White House. Who the heck knows? Sounds like that might be a difficult one. But this one's even worse. Subsection M. Do not use or unlawfully possess a narcotic drug or other controlled substances like cocaine as defined under the law, unless it's medical cocaine. Then you can use it. Submit to testing for a hunters getting drug tested. Ooh. Oh, man. This is what I'm talking about. This is why they wanted this whole deal to just be done. He's got drug testing now. Oh, he's going to hate that. So Huntie must submit to a testing for prohibited substances if required by pretrial services. So we'll see. So he's got to call a pretrial here, and they'll see what they do with that. Or the supervisor. I mean, he's got a history of drugs, but these aren't drug crimes. Although maybe some of the defenses to the drug crimes are that he was a crackhead at the time. So testing may be used with random frequency. They could require it. Don't know that it's going to be mandatory. But if the pretrial services officer, generally when you go to pretrial services, you'll have an intake. You know, it's sort of like an onboarding. What's your crime? What's your background? Are you still drinking? Are you still committing tax crimes? Do you still have gun problems? So they'll ask him about that. They could add urine testing, sweat patch, remote alcohol testing system like an ankle monitor, prohibited substances, and you must not obstruct or tamper with any of those devices. Not a good one for Hunter if they choose to do it. And I think that they might, because the judge actually brought it up today during the proceedings. And Hunter must also participate in a program of inpatient or outpatient substance abuse therapy if directed by pretrial services. So he might be getting some drug treatment, inpatient or outpatient, if they deem appropriate. No curfew, no home detention, no home incarceration, no standalone monitoring, or anything of the sort. Also, no location tracking like GPS, no paying of costs, and he doesn't have to report his prior arrest or anything like that. So, now, this is what Hunter signs. You're aware of this. You violate any of these things, there could be an issuance of a warrant for your arrest. If you commit a new federal felony offense, your sentence will be consecutive, okay? Meaning we're going to run it after the other one. You commit one crime, you're going to get penalized for that crime, and you're going to serve the full 5-year sentence for crime 1. After crime 1, we're going to penalize you for crime 2, but it's only going to start after you've served your time for crime 1. So let's say you charge 2 crimes. You could run those sentences concurrently, so you get out after the 5 years on both, or consecutively, so you stack the 5 years. You commit a new crime, Hunter, going to be a problem for you. It's a crime punishable by up to 10 years. To obstruct, don't do it. If you fail to appear, there will be big problems. If you're convicted of any of these other offenses, consequences could be severe. Do you acknowledge this, Huntie? Hunter Biden signed it right there. R.H.B. Biden. Hunter signing his release conditions, charged as a criminal, ordered for processing by the judge. Now, this is very curious. When Donald Trump gets indicted again, they're going to go through something very similar to this. And we're going to ask ourselves what the D.C. judges do about stuff like home detention, monitoring, passport, travel, all of these different things, including pretrial services. And so Hunter gets a pretty nice exit release conditions. Nothing too strenuous there, although those drug limitations could be concerning, especially now that we know that there's a crackhead in the White House. So there were other documents filed. We see that the judge has ordered the government now to comply with Brady. Remember, Brady means that the government has to disclose any exculpatory evidence to the defense. So the judge says, well, all right, this is basically a real criminal case now. Congratulations, you've entered your plea of not guilty. So now the government is obligated, pursuant to Brady, to disclose any information that's favorable to the defense And we're sitting here going, wait, what? The whole plea deal was favorable to the defense. The DOJ is basically working for the defense. So they're going to still give them their Brady materials, mitigation and punishment stuff. All of this favorable information that may cast doubt on the credibility of government witnesses. And I'm sure they have just wheelbarrows full of this. They're like, here, Hunter, here's all the reasons you're innocent. Wait, you're prosecuting me? This is incredible. Thank you for this. Possible consequences for violating this order could be problematic for the DOJ, but of course they will comply with this. And there was something else interesting that happened in court. Don't know if you saw this, but the Babylon Bee, speaking of those drug crimes and those drug conditions, did you see that they reported the following? One of their reporters was there. They said that the Secret Service says that an 8-ball of cocaine was found in the courtroom chair that Hunter was sitting in, but they concluded that it was left there by a tour group. Oh, all right. So that's interesting. You see it right there. Very similar situation to the White House. You know, those cokehead tour groups all over the place. So now that the judge has set those release conditions and Hunter is prohibited from legally using crack, questions at the White House abound. The press is asking Karine a lot of questions, and so she comes out and just pre-butts this. She says, hey, I know you're going to bother me with all this stuff, but let me tell you, I'm not talking about it.
Now, I know many people have been following the news in Delaware today and we're going to have a lot of questions.
Yeah, we do.
And so here's what I'll say at the top before I turn it over to my colleague, the Admiral. Hunter Biden is a private citizen, and this was a personal matter for him. As we have said, the President, the First Lady, they love their son, and they support him as he continues to rebuild his life. This case was handled independently, as all of you know, by the Justice Department under the leadership of a prosecutor appointed by the former president, President Trump.
But he has to go through Matthew Graves in D.C. or U.S. attorneys in California in order to do anything.
So for anything further, as you know, and we've been very consistent from here, I refer to the Department of Justice and to Hunter's representatives, who is his legal team, obviously, who can address any of your questions.
Oh, okay. So the press said, oh, okay. So I guess we'll just call Hunter then, right? I guess we have no questions for Karine. Wrong. They bombarded her, rightfully so. They said, hey, have you even talked to Hunter about this?
Thanks, Karine. Have the president and his attorneys been in touch with Hunter's legal team today, and have they been keeping tabs on the proceedings?
Look, I don't have anything to share. I would refer you to, on this particular issue, I would refer you to Hunter's representative. I would refer you to the Department of Justice.
You just
I
said
don't
that.
have anything to share beyond on what I shared at the top of this briefing.
It's extremely rare in such a high-profile case for a plea deal to fall apart like this.
Yeah,
Does the president believe that the prosecutors, the federal prosecutors in this case, have acted appropriately and competently?
As you know, Jeremy, this was an independent investigation.
Wrong.
that was overseen by the Department of Justice.
Not according to the
As we've been
whistleblowers.
very clear, they are independent. We give them the space to do their work. We believe in the rule of law. I just don't have anything else to share on this. I would refer you to the Department of Justice. Again,
Nada.
this was done independently, and I would also refer you to Hunter's representatives.
Nada from her. So we're going to see some stonewalling like that. Here is another example.
A firearm illegally should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law.
So here, I'm going to be, I think I know where this question is going.
Yeah, Hunter.
And I'm just going to continue to say, as it relates to the case that we're seeing in Delaware, I'm just going to not speak to that.
She is right. They want to know about old Hunter, but she doesn't want to talk about it. So we have questions about the new language. Remember, the White House has new Karine Biden Hunter question strategy 2.0 that she is launching. And the language change, and I know these outfits look almost identical, but these were actually on 2 different days. This is the day that the language changed. We know that Hunter and Joe apparently never spoke about any of this stuff.
The president's accusation against you stems from your son, Hunter Biden, working on the board of an energy company in Ukraine while you were vice president. Do you agree that that could at least create the appearance of a conflict?
Look, what I agree is with that there's not a single solitary thing anyone said that was done wrong. I don't discuss business with my son.
You don't.
I didn't know that was the case, and
You didn't.
when in fact I found out after the fact. And because I don't discuss things with my son or my family, because I don't want to have any knowledge of any, I don't want to be accused of, well, you talk with your son or you talk with your whomever. And so the fact is, though, everybody's looked at that. He did nothing wrong.
Okay, so there's about a million other clips just like that where he says, I've never even talked to him, even when he was Attorney General and my other son, Beau, and all this stuff. But then Karine came out and there was a hard shift. We all got whiplash. We're like, whoa, whoa. We thought we were going in the direction of never spoke, and suddenly you jerked us into this never in business land. What the heck's going on here?
Chairman James Comer today says that the Oversight Committee, has evidence that the president in the past communicated directly with foreign business associates of his son Hunter Biden many times. Curious if the White House and the president still stand behind his comment that he's never been involved and has never even spoken to his son about his business.
So I've been asked this question a million times. The answer is not going to change. The answer remains the same. The president was never in business with his son. I just don't have anything else to add.
Never in business. Never in business. He just said we never spoke. Never in business means what? That they haven't formed LLCs together? Is Joe Biden getting direct deposits from Hunter Biden? We don't think that that's happening. We think that there's probably something else happening. But why did the language change? The media wants to know. Pretty obvious.
Months ago, you said that nothing has changed when you were asked about the president's previous remarks on his son's business dealings. But the language has in fact changed. So I just want to clear this up once and for all.
Yeah.
The president has previously said that he has never discussed overseas business dealings with his son. But the White House now says that the president has never been in business with his son. So why the updated language? Which statement is true? Or is this semantics and they're both true?
As I stated on Monday, when I was asked this question multiple times, nothing has changed. Nothing has changed on this. Nothing has changed on this. And so could ask me a million different ways on this question.
I hope they do.
Nothing has changed.
He just literally pointed out the statements that have changed. Karine, you're killing me here. But you said no talking. Now you say no business. The word talking went to business. Do you want me to spell them for you? They're very different words. But nothing has changed in the White House. So, okay. And she got it one more time just to get out of there. Nothing has changed.
Earlier this week, you said the president was never in business with his son. But can you say specifically that the president did not have discussions of any kind with Hunter about his business dealings?
I appreciate the question. I've been asked this question multiple times in different variations in different ways. As you mentioned, I was asked this question multiple times on Monday. Nothing has changed.
Today too.
I don't have anything to add to what I stated on Monday.
What do we even have a press secretary for? Oh, gosh. All right. So we now know that Hunter has entered a plea of not guilty, and the judge has reset the proceedings for some additional hearings. And let's get up to date on the court docket. And let's do a refresh so this is nice and fresh out of the oven. Here we are. The judge enters on the court docket an arraignment, July 26, not guilty plea, and the initial appearance. Case is now off. The judge says, here's the minute entry officially on the docket. Initial appearance on counts 1 and 2 was held. Defendant was present with counsel. Court advised defendant of his rights, granted release conditions. Hunter waived the preliminary hearing, which is a hearing where evidence is often presented. So there are several ways a person can be prosecuted. One is through a direct complaint. We've seen that. Many J6 cases involved direct complaints. An officer investigates, files something, and then you can challenge that, right? You could actually have a hearing about that evidence to determine whether that complaint is legitimate or not. Or you could be indicted. And if you're indicted, you don't get the hearing because you kind of had a hearing, the process had a hearing in a grand jury. But if you're not indicted and you're not really charged with a criminal complaint, although he is essentially now, he doesn't have to have the preliminary hearing to save the government from having to prove that case. He can agree for strategic reasons that there's enough cause there that he's not going to contest it at the preliminary matter. It's like a pre-trial trial. The court advised everybody about Brady. The court deferred a decision on the plea and pretrial diversion agreement. So tax charges are going forward. The felony charge is still up in the air. We'll talk about that later, is what the judge is saying. It's been deferred. The parties need to submit briefs on that within 30 days. Not guilty plea has been entered. Times excluded from the Speedy Trial Act between today and September 1st in the interest of justice. So another deadline on September 1st, 2023, and all of the attorneys were present, long proceeding, new release conditions, and the parties will submit briefs. And of course, we will continue to cover this, my friends. So if you are not already subscribed, we would love to have you wherever it is you're watching us, because there will be new filings and we're going to cover this case as it unfolds. And it's going to be a lot of fun. All right, so one final update on this and a little bit of reaction from the GOP. Democrats are now mocking the Republicans for their impeachment threats. We know that the Biden crime family is being exposed day by day. More evidence from IRS whistleblowers, people like Gal Luft, and the Oversight Committee is digging away. And now that Hunter Biden has entered a not guilty plea, and we're going to presumably see that case evolve, maybe even get some discovery on that one, Republicans are talking about impeachment. Kevin McCarthy has been hinting about this. Marjorie Taylor Greene has been on the House floor talking about the same. But are they going to do it? Democrats seem to be scoffing at him, but here is Kev.
The people of America have a right to know what went on. You have a president who lied to the American public, said they didn't get any money from China. We know that's true. We've had whistleblowers from the IRS come say the Biden family was treated differently and that other things were going on. And then you have a informant with the FBI saying there was a bribe. We need to know the answer to this. And as we get more information going forward, if at any time I feel as though we're not able to get all the information we need, we'll have to rise to the level of impeachment inquiry.
Impeachment inquiry, something that will give them more tools to go get additional documents and data. And we talk a lot about here how difficult it is to gobble this stuff up. Congress sends letter after letter after letter to the FBI. And the FBI, Christopher Wray, I'm pretty sure he just takes those into the bathroom with him and disposes of them accordingly. But we'll see if they do anything about it. Is it good political strategy? Well, a former Trump official, somebody we've played here before, named Alyssa Farah Griffin, who I think is cashing big fat ABC checks now on The View. Here's what she posted. It is a wild post today. Says Joe Biden should not be impeached. All right. Used to work with Trump in the Trump administration. Now on The View. Says one can strongly disagree with his policies while also recognizing lowering the bar for impeachment of POTUS, would be irrevocably damaging to our institutions. This will set the stage for every future POTUS to be dragged through a show impeachment. Who is this woman? Oh my gosh. So I don't know what happens. I think when you go on The View, your brain's turned into mashed potatoes or something. This will set the stage for every future POTUS to be dragged through a show impeachment. This is a joke. Does she remember Donald Trump and the two impeachments that they dragged him through? So it's a bizarre thing. The Democrats are also laughing about it. Here is what the halls of Congress sounded like.
Support a impeachment inquiry looking into President Biden's possible involvement in his son Hunter's business?
No, and again, I'm running to vote, so.
We're investigating this on this committee with Hunter Biden. There's no real evidence that the president was involved.
Would you support an impeachment inquiry into President Biden's possible involvement?
Is that AOC? AOC, say hi.
I think the Republican desire to impeach someone, anyone, no matter whether there's any evidence, just shows how they have descended into chaos. Descended into chaos from Pencil Neck Adam Schiff, saying that they just want to impeach anybody they can get their hands on. It's like, hey, you guys literally made up a fake dossier to try to
disassembled Trump's campaign, you've created hoax after hoax after hoax in order to castigate your political enemies. But now he's going to say the Republicans are doing it. But is this just a big shiny object? Is this all just a bunch of talk and the Republicans not actually doing anything? This is Ken Buck. He's on the House Judiciary Committee, a representative over from Colorado. Here's what he says about McCarthy. Says it's not really that genuine.
Absolutely Congress's role to look at possible impeachment, but I also think that if that is just a political game, then we need to make sure that the criminal case goes forward.
Okay, so let's talk about the impeachment. Do you think it could be a political game? And why do you believe that Speaker McCarthy in the last 24, 36 hours has begun to lean more into the notion of opening an impeachment inquiry?
Because the whistleblowers
This is impeachment
testified.
theater. We right now are starting the appropriations process.
He said this is impeachment theater.
An impeachment inquiry.
This is impeachment theater. We right now are starting the appropriations process, and there is not consensus on the Republican side about what the numbers should be. Kevin McCarthy promised when he was running for Speaker one set of numbers, and then he made an agreement with President Biden for the debt ceiling increase on another set of numbers. So right now, he has got to convince the public that he's credible and that Republicans have a duty to follow him. The party itself is not in agreement, and we're going to have some real trouble passing appropriations bills.
I just want to make sure I understand what you're saying. It sounds like you're saying that the Speaker is talking about impeachment to try to distract conservatives like you from spending bills that you don't like.
Well, not just me, but the public. What he's doing is he's saying there's a shiny object over here, and we're really going to focus on that. We just need to get all these things done so that we can focus on the shiny object. Most of us are concerned about spending. It is an existential threat to this country, and so we want to move forward with the spending bills in a responsible way.
Do you believe there is any reason why the House Republican majority should open an inquiry right now other than politics?
I don't think it's responsible for us to talk about impeachment. When you start raising the I word, it sends a message to the public and it sets expectations. I do think that what's going on in the Oversight Committee and the Judiciary Committee is absolutely fair and is part of our responsibility.
You mentioned spending. The idea that there are these spending bills, a lot of spending bills that are moving through the House.
All right, so that's one Republican who's not going to be on team impeachment, it seems. But here's Jim Jordan explaining why this is necessary, why it gives the Republicans more tools to investigate where this goes.
What the Speaker was saying is when you go to that phase, when you get to an inquiry phase, that gives you the ability to get more information. The courts have been clear on this, and to get it in a timely fashion instead of playing this back and forth, this dance you have to do with the Justice Department or whatever agency, the IRS, whatever agency you're dealing with. So I think that's important. Look, our job is to follow the facts, follow the evidence, and here's what we're now seeing. The story from the White House keeps changing as to what Joe Biden's knowledge or involvement was with Hunter Biden. And then the story from the Justice Department has certainly changed. But the story that's been consistent, the testimony that has not changed, has been the testimony from the whistleblowers, Mr. Shapley and Mr. Ziegler. And it's been backed up, as you know, David, by an FBI agent who was deposed by the Oversight Committee as well. So I think we just keep doing our job. And if we have to go to the impeachment inquiry phase, then the Speaker's, I think, pretty clear we're going to go there.
Well, on Monday, I believe behind closed doors, you're going to hear from the former business partner of Hunter, Devin Archer. Do you suspect that he may have a smoking gun of some kind?
I don't know, but that's one more step, one more part of our investigation. Look, we're supposed to do our duty, our constitutional duty. If, in fact, that leads to an impeachment inquiry, so be it. But let's do our job so that we can figure out what exactly happened, how that may impact the appropriations process, what we do there with money going to these various agencies, what it may mean for possible legislation. That's our job as legislators. That's our job that's our duty to the Constitution. We're going to do all that. Mr. Archer is scheduled now. He's been scheduled multiple times before, and somehow those didn't work out. So we'll see what happens next Monday. But
Devin Archer was the guy that they sent a subpoena to, and then they didn't really kind of enforce the subpoena because he said, I'll voluntarily show up. And Devin Archer was a very close associate with Hunter and Biden. But this guy literally right here, like went golfing with these guys. So he's supposed to show up in Congress. We'll see if he actually does or not.
questions we have for him relative to things that have been in the press, at least, that say Joe Biden may have been more involved than he's indicated.
By the
over the
way,
last couple of
there's
years.
also questions about his own credibility. How certain are you of his credibility? Because he has, as I believe, he's either been convicted or he pleaded to crimes before.
So he has, and there was a bond scam where he was basically, like $60 million was misappropriated and stolen, in other words. And so he had a plea deal that I think he entered in on that. And there's questions now, is Joe Biden going to pardon him or something before he testifies, or is he going to, hopefully show up?
Yeah. No, I mean, look, the two people whose credibility seems unimpeachable right now are Gary Shapley and Mr. Ziegler.
Right.
They were so good last week. Their story, I mean, look, they recorded things contemporaneously. They memorialized those. The email from the October 7th, 2022 meeting where Mr. Weiss, the U.S. attorney, told Mr. Shapley, Gary Shapley, and the other folks in that meeting that he didn't have full authority. He requested special counsel status, was turned down on that. And then, of course, the Justice Department says a different story. But he recorded it at the time, that very day, sends it to a colleague who was in the meeting who confirmed it. So, again, I think their credibility has been rock solid.
Yeah, the emails confirm it from Gary Shapley to colleagues also in the meetings. They respond and say, yep, David Weiss said he didn't have final decision-making authority. And so somebody's lying. It's either Biden's administration through the Department of Justice, Merrick Garland, it's David Weiss, or it's the IRS whistleblowers. Both of them. But I doubt it. And so we'll see what the Republicans do. Kevin McCarthy certainly talking a big game. Whether they actually do anything is yet to be seen. And so, of course, we will continue to cover, my friends. Thank you for subscribing wherever it is you're watching this. We are live every day at this time, and we'd love to have you join us on the next one. All right, my friends. Well, we covered some good ground today. We've got some impeachment update. We know that we've got release conditions scheduled for the newest official criminal out of the Biden administration. We have the judge rejecting his plea deal in what was a shocking day, very enjoyable, along with them getting busted in their last-minute scam to try to divert any evidence that might deviate the plea deal. And so we covered some good ground, my friends, but now let's hear from you and say hello to our friends over on YouTube, watchingthewatchers.locals.com, our friends on Rumble, and we'll say hello to our friends on X, which we forgot yesterday. But before we get there, make sure you're signed up for our daily newsletter, robertgovea.com, a great, exciting new website that we're excited to share, where we've got daily reports as well. So if you go to the website, you can click this reports button, and you can just get a summary of everything that we're talking about here, so you never miss anything. And if you don't want to watch a full video, you can read a summary of the video. You just click the report. The full video is right there in the link, and you can read the summary about exactly what's going on. And so head on over there, robertgovea.com. If you want to access the mind maps, just click this little button right here, sign up. You'll get a direct link to this document, and you can download the PDFs, the video links, whatever you want to check out. So come and check us out, robertgovea.com, my friends. Now, let's see what you have to say over on YouTube. This one came in from yesterday. And big shout outs to Jameson. He says, Mark Elias was sanctioned by the Fifth Circuit. That's a good update. I didn't know that. Wonder what that was all about. Good to see you, 2012. Southie says, can you, over from Rumble, who's a member, thank you, Southie, says, can you please go over selective service? It flat out says that men 18 to 25 cannot legally vote or get federal financial aid if they don't sign up for selective service. I don't know much about it. I'll keep my eye on it, Southie. I don't know that we'll dive into it specifically unless it comes up in the things that we talk about, but I'm trying to think. Like, don't you, like when you register for like your license or register to vote, doesn't that happen automatically? And Red One says, just saying hi to you and the chat. And we missed those yesterday. I apologize that I missed those. But thank you, Red One, for saying hello. Geegum in the house, reminding everyone to hit that like button. And thank you, Geegum, for sending that one in. And Gray Owl AZ, what's up, Gray? Sorry we missed you yesterday. Says, keep up the good work. And thank you for sending that one in, our friend Gray Owl. We've got FMF Doc says, lovely. It's 122 degrees in Tucson right now. Good Lord. Brutal. This one from the Rubos at rubossaltshop.com says, Rob, thank you for all you do. You're the best. In case anyone is interested in the amicus brief that derailed the plea, here it is. Oh, great. They posted it today. Great. That's awesome. Here it is. Here is the link. All right. Well, we'll probably go through that tomorrow. Thank you for that one, for the Rubos. Sweet. All right. So that it was like a 400 and something page document. Oh, it's 860 pages. Oh, look at that. 860 pages. Oh, man, that's so fun. Look at that. Woo, woo, woo. We like the look of that. Man, that's good looking right there. Look at all of those pages, baby. Yeah, that's some good stuff. All right. Shout out to the Rubos. Thanks for flagging that for us. When did that get posted? 1:15 today. No, that was yesterday. They posted that yesterday. Cool. All right. So we'll take a look at that one. Super fun. All right. The Rubos. We've got C. John is bringing in 5 new memberships. Thank you, C. John, for doing that. We've got Catania Mama Italia's in the house. The Freak joined us. Ricky Smith. Stop Sniffing Kids Joe is also joining us, along with TJ. And that is all very, very, very good stuff. Thank you, C. John, for inviting everybody in on the platform. John Schaffer says, sounds like the Florida Epstein deal. Exactly right. Non-prosecution agreement so big and broad, it's just unconscionable almost. Good to see you, John. And thanks for that tip. And if you read that one, the non-prosecution agreement, it was as broad as it sounds like Hunter's was. Kind of included any and all things. It was just very abstract. So I've been waiting. I'd love to see the Hunter Biden plea deal so we can compare it with the Jeffrey Epstein deal. I'm sure they're very similar. But thank you, John. Very generous of you. Salty Sarge says, Ted knows how to do a strongly worded letter. Yeah, man, that one lawyer, they were just at each other's throats. And Ted was right. They were wrong. 2012 Jameson says, Clark versus attorney, hint, clerk wins. Wow, big ouch. Yeah, clerk versus attorney, hint, the clerk wins. Wow, big ouch. It's I was going to say like an unspoken rule, but it's pretty well spoken. If you're a lawyer, you don't ever blame the clerk and you don't ever blame your staff. Those are just good rules. Don't blame the clerk for your filing or for something screwed up. Okay, you're always responsible. You should always check it. You should always double check it. It's always you. If you blame your client and your client, right? You can't blame your client, obviously, but you can't blame your interns or your staff. I've seen lawyers get obliterated when they say, well, my legal assistant did this. They go, what? Judges hate it. And the judge, they did that to the judge's clerk. Hey, Odessia says, I just keep rebooting when I notice I'm talking to myself. It can take a while. Yeah, our locals chat's a little bit off keister today. And I did advise them of the problem and they are aware of it. So they are fixing it. Locals is doing some really cool stuff. They just acquired another company called Callin, which means that Locals is working super hard the rest of this year to integrate it. And so, there's going to be bumps and stuff like that. And I apologize for the problematic chat stuff. I can't blame the technology. I'm ultimately responsible, just like an attorney in court. But they're working on it. I did talk to them today about it. So they're working on it. And we were on a call, and I said, like, it literally was not working this morning, like 10 minutes ago. And so they're working on it, but I know it's frustrating. I know it's frustrating. John McGarvey says, hey, Rob, send this to Locals to fix the chat. Hey, Locals. So send this over to them. I'll just tell them to take it out of my Locals account, John. I'll just say, hey, that's for you. Just, I'm going to delegate that to you. But we pulled up the chat from this morning. So for our Locals friends, we actually pulled up the chat on our call. And I said, look, see, she says it right there. She says it right there, and so on. So here's another one from Jameson. Says federal court is paper court and motion practice. Yeah, you don't call and get stuff removed from the docket. That's insane. Unless you are Hunter's lawyers, I guess. This one came in from Nate's Memes. Says Hunter gets his Coke directly from the source, the CIA. The CIA. This must be some good coke. Even the Secret Service doesn't want to out him. Dolphin fan is the man. Thank you, Dolphin. Brought in 5 new people. Dano, Ernie, Kraken McBubble, Dark Energy, and TJ Hartley all coming in courtesy of Dolphin fan is the man. And we really love our members. Great way to support the work that we do. We try to bring extra value. We do member-only morning streams on YouTube and locals where we talk about the daily news. What's happening with Biden, what's happening with the court dockets, the Trump docket, the congressional committee schedules, and we say hello to each other to get our day started off right. We'd love it if you joined us either on YouTube or on locals. Dolphin fan, thank you for bringing in 5 new membos. Cat Zap is here, says, wait, Hunter's a private citizen per KJP. Why are we paying for a criminal to be protected by Secret Service? He was never elected. Outrageous. From Cat Zap. Been a member for a long time, Cat. Thank you. Yeah, they keep saying that. But then he was basically living at the White House. He's there all the time. He flies around on Air Force One. He goes on official meetings to Ireland and other places. And we have now documented evidence, including IRS whistleblower testimony, which are government officials who say that they were colluding on all sorts of bad deals. The connections are very close. And the fact that they tell us that we're idiots for asking questions about it, like we're being rude. He's a private citizen, okay? This is a private matter. Leave him alone. Give me a break. The dude has been twisting the levers of his daddy's power for years now. It's well within our right to ask questions about it. Thank you, Kat. Good to see you. It is outrageous. Nate's meme says, so the Bidens are guilty of all these crimes and more. Certainly we'll see. Hopefully the court allows us to move forward so that we can reach that conclusion. Jameson says this shows a need for a special prosecutor now. See, I have a problem with that. I don't know if you could trust the special prosecutor. And I think even James Comer is kind of questioning that. Because if they appoint a special prosecutor, that's going to take 2 years. And then that's just going to wait until after the election. They'll just keep kicking that can down the road. Unless they put unless the Republicans got to pick the special prosecutor. But of course that would not happen. So it's just ridiculous. But good to see you, Jameson. This one from Nate's Memes says, but the 81 million votes were totally legit. Totally. Yeah. No, I mean, Latham and Watkins is a totally legitimate law firm. They represented Michael Sussman. They represented Mark Elias. Now they're representing Hunter Biden. 3 stellar, all-time, honest people full of integrity. We've got this one from Adesia. Says, love this show. Thanks for the good news. This was a pretty good news day, wasn't it? Bonnie on Locals said, this is a lot more fun than the Trump cases. And I agree. It is totally. It totally is. I agree. And you know what's cool about this one is now we have an actual criminal case that's filed. They're not going to plead this thing out, and it's going to be over like this. We've got new deadlines and new filings, as we should. And the question is, are they going to add any of the actual real charges at any point, the Farah violations and all of the other actual crimes? We'll see. Pickle Jars for Hillary says, Hunter's a good boy. He didn't do nothing. Joe Tato. That's a quote from Joe Tato, which is the president of the White House, unfortunately for us. Jamison says the diversion agreement is like deferred adjudication. Yeah, in a way, yeah. Yes, and different states, these terms are interchangeable. Like what one state calls diversion might be a little bit different than how they call it in another state, or the mechanics of a diversion in one state might be a little bit different than another state. And you can adjust the deals. When I think of deferred adjudication, well, they are interchangeable. But one other, so the way that I would disambiguate the two, diversion is you have to do something about it. You've got to take a class or do something. A deferred adjudication might be like if the government says, like I've done this in a lot of traffic cases in Arizona, where you would have, like, let's say you get a speeding ticket, or in Arizona, we have criminal speeding tickets. If you don't get another traffic ticket in 12 months, they will defer the case until the end of the 12 months. You pay a deferred adjudication monitoring fee. And if you submit your motor vehicle record after the end of the 12 months, you don't have any blemishes, they dismiss the charge. Like, those are deferred adjudication deals that I've been able to work out, which is different than diversion, where you've got to go do something, attend 32 hours of classes or whatever. We don't know what Hunter's deal was because they haven't told us. Nate's meme says, stop paying taxes. It's time to defund the government mafia. So obviously, if you don't pay your taxes, you can, get into criminal liability. So I don't encourage that. I always pay my taxes. I love paying my taxes. The IRS is a great government agency. Everybody out there should pay their taxes on time. But it would be nice to defund the government mafia nonetheless. 2012 Jameson says, where is the whistleblower Scooby-Doo merch? It's a good idea. I like that. I was thinking about Scooby-Doo because it's like the Bidens would have gotten away with this if it wasn't for those meddling whistleblowers. Salty Sarge says, believe me, you don't want Hunter back at his day job. Yeah, and we're not talking about his COVID mucus day job at all. Good to see you, Salty, on Rumble. Nate's meme says, so if I identify as Hunter Biden during the next pandemic, do I still have to get the jab or will I get full immunity like Hunter? Asking for a friend. Well, this show is not legal advice nor medical advice. But if you're working with the DOJ, I think you get whatever you want. As long as your daddy's the president. Make sure your daddy's the president, Nate's memes. If your daddy's not the president, they'll throw you in the gulags in D.C. Scooter McDuder says, just reading Hunter's employment documentation. I see here that under immediate supervisor, you wrote big guy. Who's that? Well done, Scooter McDuder. What's the name of your corporation? It's called Biden Corruption Co. I mean, CEO is Joe Biden. I like it. Thank you, Scooter. Very, very good one. This one is another one from Fred Pedamonte says, honestly, the judge had to put a stop to it. I agree with you. I think the judge really didn't have much of a choice. Too much pressure coming down to bear. But she still did the right thing. And shout out to the judge. Good to see you, Fred. Gray Owl says, Biden House of Cards is about to be toppled. Certainly feels like that. Slow dominoes, one after the other. This was a big loss for them. They really wanted this thing to get squeaked through, and it didn't. Trust 2 Kids is here, says, thanks, Rob, for a great stream. Thank you, Trust 2 Kids. Thanks for joining us. It was a good one. This was a fun one, no doubt about it. Some days, the news just hits right. Salty says, Rob, I was wrong. Let Commander run away and find a doggy rehab. Cuff and stuff the rest of the criminals. We've got, Biden's dog is biting all the Secret Service agents and people in the White House because they sense evil. JL Spraggins says, Senator Kennedy said the Dems should fill out a hurt feelings report. They would have a lot of those. Yeah, they need like a full notebook of those on a regular. Hey, thank you, Horatio Spinelli, sending in a super chat. No question or comment, but just says thanks. Thank you, Horatio. I appreciate that. Thanks for being here and being supportive. We got Monica Nunchuck is here as a supporter. Welcome aboard, Monica. Don't forget to grab the Telegram link. We're about to wrap up for our members only after party here in a minute. Rosie Posey says, here's a little something towards your coffee while you read those 800 pages on the amicus brief. Thanks, Rosie. Yeah, I'll wake up bright and early tomorrow, like Christmas morning, with a nice cup of Joe and my 800 pages of Hunter crimes. Thank you, Rosie. It's going to be delicious. We got Facts Matter. Says, be the nicest to the clerk, the janitor, the cleaning lady at all. Exactly. People, you should treat everybody well, but, some people just kind of rush past other people like they don't exist. Not good. Good call, Facts Matter. Thanks for that. Tony Hay says, we got to win today. No matter what happens, it makes me happy. We did get a win. God bless that judge for doing the right thing. Says Hunter and Joe are going to get repercussions. says they know they can't cheat Trump. He's probably going to get 100 million votes. Not even the biggest idiot is going to buy that Biden got 110 million votes. I was thinking a lot about that. How are they going to sell the legitimacy of the election? I agree. Nobody's going to believe that Biden blows out Trump, but they might believe that somebody else blows out Trump. People might buy that. You know, like they might buy that like Newsom could be like they wouldn't be able to tell, in other words. The same trick that we saw last time, if there's a new person, the trick is going to look a little bit different. It's going to be harder to catch, which is why they might be doing that. Indoctrination says, after today's update, the Locals app is finally working. Fabulous show today, Rob. By the way, the X Twitter stream ended early. It did? Huh. All right. That might be on Twitter's end. My thing says it's still going, but maybe they shut me off. We'll check it. We'll check it right now. Thank you, Indoctrination. And thanks for the tip, my man. I appreciate it. Another one. Hey, says apologies. The last tip was supposed to be a 10. So here's the difference. Keep doing the good stuff, Rob. Thank you, Indoctrination. Thanks for being supportive, my friend. And I know I saw you in the chat. Sorry about the technical difficulties, but I'm glad that it is working. So there was an update, an app update today. All right, good. So we're working. We're back in business from Indoctrination. Thank you, Indoctrination. And all right, let's say hello to our friends on the brand new X, where we have maybe a half stream that was going. Don't know. Let's see what we've got happening here. Hey, it looks like we are still live. I think. Yeah, it looks like we're still live. We got 8 viewers, baby. We got 8 full viewers over there on Twitter. I see Fred. I've got James. I've got Vientikiss. I see Indoctrinations over there. All right, let's see what some of these comments say before we jump on over to our Locals after party. Fred's here, says this entire day was a Game of Thrones show. Believing that every attorney didn't know exactly what the deal was is ridiculous. None of this would have happened if Garland had indicated that Hunter or had indicted Hunter for anything with just 6 months in jail. Danny McWilliams is sharing what happened with McConnell. Prayers for McConnell, man. I saw the clip. It breaks my heart. I don't know why we just keep pushing people so hard like that. I mean, it's just terrible what they do. It's elder abuse. James says, can his daughter's mother make claims in court for support? Well, I think that case has been settled, so there's not much else to talk about on that one. V shares this one. Somebody says, I don't like Hunter Biden. What a waste of cocaine. And V says, maybe Hunter's lawyers got inspiration from Better Call Saul. Yeah, so the stream cut off after 35 after the hour, but then they brought us back. Well, 11 people were watching. We broke Twitter. Gavin says, the attorney under fire should know better than to create a situation where a clerk would misunderstand. Exactly right. And that's exactly what the judge would say. Okay, well, and that's kind of a good rule in communication, you know, of all communication. It's A to B communication. You communicate something to A communicates to B communicates back to A, and A confirms the original communication. You're supposed to be very clear. This is what I'm saying. Did you hear me say that? What did I say? They repeat it back to you. You confirm it back. That obviously didn't happen. And very conveniently that didn't happen. Vern is here, says good stuff. Thanks, Vern. And of course, shout out to all of our friends on the X over on Twitter. But my friends, that is it for us on the day. And so we are wrapping it up, heading on over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com for our after party. And we would love to see you there. So come on over and join us. Schmerg says, just wanted to help support the grift. Thank you, Schmerg. Keep doing the Lord's work. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate it. Very generous of you, our friends over on Rumble. So we're going over to Locals. YouTube members, join us on Telegram. Get your Field of Greens at fieldofgreens.com and save your 15% off with code Robert when you check out. Big thanks to the mods and the meme smiths who keep things nice and orderly and on track for us. Our friends Vientikas Prime, K-Bean, Just Cause, Playin' Hooky, Ronnie Cole, Zulu, Beyond Geo, Zach Nichols, our friend John Allen, Janek909, Dog Digger, Donut Mind Me, and John McGarvey in the house. Shout outs to our meme smiths, Geegum Geegum, Sleepy Dog Lee, our friend Paul, and Nathan, NA10, who helped memify this place up for us. And so that, my friends, is it for us on the day. Thank you for subscribing wherever it is you're watching this. Thank you for inviting somebody to come over and join us. Thanks for going over to robertgovea.com, signing up for the newsletter so that we never lose touch in case something happens here. But it was a good day. There will be more good days ahead, and we will continue to cover. And so I hope to see you right back here tomorrow, same place, same time, so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Have a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.